Hello and welcome back to Ranters and Banters. We got some rants incoming this week for sure. Busy weekend, third weekend of September here in 2024, and there is plenty to talk about. Luke, what was your favorite moment from this past weekend in the sporting world?
I think it's pretty easily Malik Willis knows how to ball. They came out against the Tennessee Titans and asked him to throw the ball first two plays of the game, and against his former team, got the job done. My man can ball and will be available probably in 2 weeks when Jordan Love's back. First round picks only, though, for that trade.
A lot of value went up this week, for sure. So for me, it was not necessarily a particular game that I had to watch. My favorite moment actually happened to me over the weekend. I made the mistake of trusting Reddit on Friday or Saturday and asked where the local Charger fan group was going to meet, if there were any Chargers fans in the Raleigh area, and they sent me to Sammy's. And when I got out of the car and started walking up, I was surrounded by Pittsburgh Steelers jerseys, and I got they punked me good. Some Steelers fans sent me to the local Steelers bar, but I walked in. I was a good sport about it. Of course, what else can you do there? And ended up making some friends with a few Steelers fans, believe it or not. Sat with them for a while, and then a couple Chargers fans meandered in later, and found some new guys to watch some future Charger games with, and another Premier League fan too in there, my friend Peter, that's originally from the UK. Yeah, that was my excitement for the weekend. Chargers game was maybe a little less exciting, but we'll get around back to that later. We'll kick it off with the Premier League. West Ham and Chelsea got us kicked off on Saturday morning with the early one. Chelsea 3-0 in this one. Some things to note from that game. It's the first league campaign for West Ham where they've started with 3 consecutive home defeats. They have 4 points in the first 5 matches. They're sitting in 14th now at the league table. Chelsea shoot up to 5th place off goal differential. Both at 10 points along with Newcastle. And then Enzo becomes the first manager since who else but Pep to win his first 3 away matches in the Premier. Only the 8th manager to ever accomplish that feat. Luke, do you think West Ham have solidified that they're just kind of scrapping for a mid-table place here? Or do you think there's a bigger statement for Chelsea that they're playing with the big boys?
I think it's more West Ham's mid-table. Chelsea's definitely taking advantage of their opponents, so credit to them. I know they've had a little figuring it out time, and 3-0 in West Ham's going to get you right. And I think it's good enough for 5th place right now on the table.
Yep, absolutely. Fair play. We'll go to Villa and Wolves next. We had Villa winning this, both of us, and we're correct there. I had it spot on with the 3-1. Villa didn't have any shots until the 73rd minute, but hey, their super sub Duran came on again in the 62nd minute, and that seemed to just change the entire tone of the game. Got to shout out my boy Yuri Tielemans for getting an assist on the winning goal with a cross off a corner set piece. And then aforementioned Duran puts in the third to seal the deal later on. Villa have already gained 6 points from losing positions in 5 games, and the Wolves have dropped 6. Only Everton have dropped more so far this year, and they've dropped 8. So, still bad enough for the Wolves that they find themselves in 20th, very bottom of the table, but same goal differential as Everton there with a single point. Aston Villa are third on goal differential with Liverpool. Both of them have 12 points so far in this campaign. I think that was a pretty expected result, though. You have anything to add, Luke, with that one?
No, that's Villa. They'll be top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Fulham and Newcastle. They did surprise us this weekend. Fulham did. At least me, for sure. I thought this would be a much closer match. But Fulham got ahead and stayed ahead in this one. And they kick it off with Jimenez as maybe not a contender for goal of the season, but certainly a wonderful strike. And then Smith Rowe adds a tally later on as well. 17th fixture for Fulham and Newcastle in the Premier League, and that is the highest amount that any two teams have played against each other that have yet to draw. So in all 17 home matches for Fulham, there's never been a draw between those two squads, which I found kind of interesting. And then the last big thing to note in that game, the one Newcastle goal that did come across was within the first minute of the second half. And Murphy was brought on at half for Newcastle, snags the assist in the first minute of the second half, and the last sub to do that in the Premier League was Mark Albrighton for the Leicester Golden Foxes back a couple years ago. Can you guess who scored both goals, Luke?
Both goals?
Yep.
Jamie Vardy.
Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes gets it. Murphy gets it to Harvey Barnes with a good strike. And Harvey Barnes was also the recipient of that last assist from Mark Albrighton. So kind of a cool little stat there for you. But yeah, so neither of us saw that result. Do you think Fulham could be a little better than we gave them credit for, or they just have a strong form to start out here? Newcastle struggling.
Newcastle struggled, I would say. I'm sure Fulham will be about where they are at the end of the season, somewhere around 15th.
Yeah. Well, Fulham are in 9th right now, so maybe overperforming a little bit with their 8 points, and then Newcastle, of course, sitting at 6th, tied with Chelsea at 10. So, be interesting to see if they both stay up there, or if Fulham or even Newcastle get knocked down a little bit more than we expect. But Southampton and Ipswich next. Luke, I had faith in Ipswich. I thought this was a match that they should win and take all 3 points from. But Southampton chose some fight. 1-1 draw there. Cameron Archer fails to convert a couple big chances for Southampton. So I think from a Southampton point of view, they feel like they probably should have won that match. Late equalizer for Ipswich, which is just the McKenna special. Saw it all year last season in the championship. Um, and then all three of Ipswich's goals so far have come from outside the box. So they haven't quite figured out that recipe for putting it home inside the box, but they can score from outside of it apparently. So, I mean, unfortunately, I think it's going to be tough for more than one, if even one team can stay up this year that got brought back up. Southampton are actually find themselves in 18th because of goal differential. So Wolves and Everton below them right now, and then Ipswich find themselves at 17th off goal differential with 3 points, with Palace and Leicester ahead of them. But they all have 3 points. Do you have what did you think about that match?
I kind of thought it would be that close. I just thought Ipswich would be the one to win it. But credit to Southampton, they played a lot better than I expected out of them.
Yep. We'll see if they can ride off that momentum or if they find themselves stuck again. Tottenham and Brentford. The next matchup, and Tottenham win 3-1. Wasn't particularly close. Thought it might be a little tighter than that. Embuemo scores 23 seconds in for Brentford, and then that was it for them all day. Solanke gets his first as a Spur. Brennan Johnson gets the winner. He was coming off a midweek tally against Coventry in the EFL Cup, so he goes nets one in a couple games back to back, and then Madison secures the 3 points late. Brentford, as a side, have dropped more points than any other squad since the beginning of the PL season last year. So they're going to have to figure out how to finish some of these games and get some results. You know what's coming next, Luke?
Yep.
Leicester City and Everton. "13th minute of this game, 12th minute of this game, I'm watching. Everton's dominated the first 12 minutes of the game, and I'm like, all right, if we can make it to 15 minutes, I think we calm down and regain our composure, we'll be fine. 13th minute, Everton scores. Wonderful. Great. Saw it coming. They had total control in the first part of the game. And then it starts raining. And in any U.S. sport, that would have been a heavy rain delay. There was lightning, thunder, just absolutely pouring out there. They were saying from pitch side views that you couldn't even see the other side of the pitch with how heavy it was pouring. So I can't imagine what it was like to play in that for a while. There was even a 10-minute delay after the half when they were brought back out. But Leicester can't take advantage of it at all whatsoever. I got to start questioning Steve Cooper. I mean, we had the lineup changes yet again going into a week where all of a sudden, Ndidi's playing a different position. We're changing things up towards the front midfield. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I mean, we've been getting decent results with the squad that we've put out. It hasn't been perfect, but it seemed like the cohesion is working a little bit. We started Mavididi. I love it. It's great. But then he waits to bring Fatau on again until the 86th or 87th minute. just way too late to bring him on. He can be a threat so much earlier, like in the 62nd or 63rd, you bring him on. I think that's a sweet spot to give him the time to really work the ball like he needs to, instead of using him as like a latch ditch effort. I don't understand why he's subbed on so late. You know, Mavididi does get the goal, the tying goal. I think it is around the 72nd minute, and it wasn't a particularly pretty goal. Just got it in the box and towed it in off a corner. Just kind of pinballed around and found its way in the back of the net. And we put a lot of pressure on late in the game, but there was just nothing. I'm going to say it. Harry Winks is bad right now. We have a lot of depth in the midfield. I don't know why we're continuing to play Harry Winks. Questionable ball after questionable ball played into the box. They're just grasping at straws. He's trying to make something happen, but he forces it way too much. It's never a true. There's never a true plan. It's just poking into the box and hope someone's there. Like, he's giving the ball up. He's giving away bad fouls and bad areas as the defensive midfielder. You know, it's been interesting to not see Oliver Skip out there, and I think Harry Winks does good things. It's just this game just highlighted some of the weaknesses that he's been struggling with recently, and I think it really cost Leicester, especially late in the game. We had a couple great chances that if he just sits with the ball or passes it out to the wing, we could see a great finish. And I'm just not seeing enough out of him. I thought our back four did just fine. It's just that midfield in front of them again. And it was interesting to switch it up for a more offensive approach, I guess. But then there was no offense in the first 15 minutes, so I don't understand if you're gonna go for an offensive approach, but then you don't want possession. What the point is? It's confusing, and they didn't seem to be on the same page until the last 10 or 15 minutes, and at that point it was just too little too late, and Everton were able to hang on. Something's got to change here. I'm wearing my Leicester kit from last season because if we don't get it fixed, we have a real chance of going back down. And I thought we were going to be... I would have been more okay with that result if it were away. But to draw Everton 1-1, who's tied for bottom of the league table off terrible goal differential, it's worrisome as a Leicester fan. And I think this is where a lot of the fan base is getting very, very nervous. Especially like we have Arsenal this week, going to get pounded. It's an away fixture. We're going to need some sort of decent showing. Like, I'd hope we don't lose by more than 3. And putting a goal in would be great too. It's against Arsenal though, so we'll see. But the panic button hasn't been hit yet, but my hand's hovering over it. That's for sure. As far as Everton goes, I'm going to shit on them to make myself feel a little bit better. After that, it's their third worst league start ever. The last time, only two times have Everton gone 0 points in their first 5 matches. Of course, they get a point here, so they were safe from that. But this is their worst start outside of those 2 starts ever in league play. And then the reason I am worried about Leicester going back down is this is also one of the few times that they've gone winless through the first 5 matches of a campaign. And the last time that they went winless through 5 was 2 years ago when they got sent down. Yeah, Leicester at 15th with 3 points, hanging in there with goal differential. Everton 19th with 1 point. An absolutely bummer of a weekend as a Leicester fan, I think. Did you see anything from that one, Luke?
No, I did not see anything from Leicester.
Yeah, I think I got us covered there with that one. We'll hop on to Liverpool and Bournemouth. Liverpool 3-0. 11 minutes of the first half decide that game. All 3 Liverpool goals come within that 11-minute gap. 2 goals for Luis Diaz, 1 for Darwin Nunez. And then Liverpool have kept 4 out of 5 clean sheets this season so far. So they're rolling. And then there were 16 total shots on target in that match. I think 10 for Liverpool and 6 for Bournemouth. So it was not a easy day at the office for either keeper. They kept him busy. But anything to add on that one, Luke?
This might be Luis Diaz's team now too.
You think so?
It's getting there.
All right. Let's keep an eye on him. So Liverpool in second now off goal differential. Bournemouth by themselves in 13th. And then we had Crystal Palace and Man United is the late game on Saturday. Talk to me about that one, Luke.
Yeah, obviously should win on the road. Apparently they can't find it to win on Crystal Palace's pitch, but they dominated the possession. They dominated the first half with 2 shots right back to back, I think, between Gordon and Bruno off the crossbar. Both just hanging their heads on that one. Yeah, and a late scare with, I think, Sarr from Crystal off a set piece. But other than that, like, nothing for United to be worried about. It didn't even really get into their half in the second half. I think Andre was probably taking a nap. Or in the first half, he was taking a nap. But, yeah, I mean, better performance than the last time at Crystal, getting 4-0'd. Certainly drawing is better, but you would have liked to get revenge in a win. Can't say same old Man United because they've actually kind of, dominated the possession with this. I don't know if it's a new strategy, new lineups maybe with Eric Ten Hag, but they are starting to dominate possessions against these lower teams. Eventually, they just got to get something in the back of the net.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I did see it was Man U's first goalless draw since 2023 against Liverpool. But I didn't really get a chance to catch much of that one. So Crystal Palace, though, that's their only the fifth campaign in a league that they've gone winless in as well. They're stuck at 3 points with Leicester and just behind them on goal differential. 3 out of 4 times Crystal Palace has been relegated. Do you think Palace is in the relegation debate, or do you think they just need a little while to set themselves away from that bottom 4 or 5?
What I'll say is I think they can set themselves away. I have no doubt about that, but they surely are in the conversation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to have to find some big wins against some of these.
I don't see them getting out of 5th from bottom, honestly.
Think they're the lowest of the rest, maybe?
For sure.
All right. Brighton, the early game on Sunday. Brighton and Nottingham Forest. Red cards in both games on Sunday. Gibbs White takes a red late in the game off 2 yellows for Nottingham Forest. Chris Wood converts a penalty early on to give Forest the early lead. Brighton scored 2 in response before the half. Danny Welbeck gets that second one, the go-ahead goal. But then Forest equalize after the break, and it ends in a 2-2 draw. Brighton's first Premier League campaign that they're unbeaten through 5 games. And then Nottingham Forest are also unbeaten in their last 5 away games for the first time since 1995 in the Premier League. So both sides looking decently in form right now. I think it's still a bit of a shock that Forest come away with a draw here. I mean, it is. We expected Brighton to be the better side, but you think? I mean, Brighton haven't lost yet this year, so have we given Forest enough credit? Or are they just off to a hot start?
We're not ready to give them too much credit yet. I don't think they're that team. I think Brighton actually might be a little bit disappointed themselves, even with a draw there. That's a team that you would think they should beat. I know they're unbeaten still, but that's a lower maybe mid-table team by the end of the season. And once again, could be the difference between them finishing in European football or finishing in 7th or 8th.
Yeah, absolutely. They're tied in the table with 9 points apiece, and Forest take 8th, and Brighton are in 7th off goal differential. So, and then we end the week with Man City and Arsenal, and boy, did we have more of a game than we thought, Luke. 2-2 draw in this one. There's a red card early on at the very end of the second half off 2 yellows. What do you think about that pair of cards for Trossard there that gets him sent off?
Yeah, I think we both agree that it really was the second penalty was the real foul on the Trossard there. You can't really put it in the ref's hands, though, so he has nobody to blame but himself in that situation. Surely disappointed. Arsenal, I mean, credit. They had the Etihad lead until the 98th minute. Is that right?
Yep.
So I'm sure they're heartbroken leaving the stadium with only a point, but my God, man down. And it took them the rest of the entire game for City to even answer.
Yeah, it took a whole half of football there. So clearly Arsenal have the defense going strong. Arsenal also only had 22% possession that entire match. Like, City just dominated and couldn't find a way through. So that's certainly a testament to Arsenal's defensive prowess there. Outside, of course, of the latest goal ever in Man City's Premier League history for a game-defining strike, and with Haaland's early score, that put him at 100 goals in 105 games for the club, and the last person to reach it in that amount of time, Cristiano Ronaldo, in the same amount of games. Do you think Arsenal can take this fixture at home later on in the season after that display? You think if they keep off the red card that they have a chance to close it out?
Yeah, I would say so. Also, a part of that would be that City lost Rodri, for the ACL tear early in the game. So, they got a little extra motivation perhaps to close it out, maybe finish it off for him. I don't know if it will affect them later, but Rodgers definitely been a key part of that midfield for City. So without him, I don't know what they'll do, but yeah, Arsenal's definitely laid the blueprint for themselves on how they can do this. Even a man down, they were almost unpenetrable until the 98th minute.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we'll wrap up Premier League there and uh, take a look at next match week in a couple days. How about Bundesliga? What went on in for Bayern over the weekend?
Yeah, Bayern took care of business. Uh, Final scoreline 5-0. 2 goals for Elise, Muisala, Harry Kane, Narby. Bremen just kind of got put in their place by a really good Bayern team again. It's kind of their league. Also, notably, Dortmund getting a little bit of a clobbering by Stuttgart, 5-1 as well. So I don't know if they're on alert, but the scoring started in that game in like the 21st minute, and there are 2 goals after or 3 goals after 62 minutes for Stuttgart, and I don't know what happened. Didn't watch the Dortmund game there, but yeah, getting 5-1, you wouldn't expect that from a Stuttgart team, but maybe they were a bit stronger than the table suggests, being in seventh right now. Also, Leverkusen took care of theirs, 4-3 at Wolfsburg. They ended up with a red card on Wolfsburg side. 93rd minute was the final goal by Victor Boniface. So
All right. So, do you expect Leverkusen to be their biggest um, rival for the title then?
yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I mean, there are 3 teams tied at 9 points with Leverkusen as well, but Bayern is 3 points ahead with 12, leading the table. And they've also lost. Or Freiburg is one of the teams in tied second place. They've lost to Bayern Munich, and the other one is Frankfurt, yet to play. But yeah, those 3 teams in Leverkusen are all tied 9 points, and I don't know if any of the other 3 could do anything to beat United. We'll see when Leverkusen plays them later on,
All right.
which is this coming week. We'll be previewing it. So
Awesome. All right. Well, we will switch gears to F1 then. We had the Singapore Grand Prix over the weekend. And it's a little different than our predictions. We may not have given Max Verstappen enough credit this week. Norris comes away with the win. Not particularly close the entire race. Pulled away. Keeps his lap one lead for the, I don't know, is that the first time he's converted from pole, right?
yeah, I believe that would be. Well, then he went 2 weeks ago. Didn't he win from pole but lost a position? This is the one where he didn't lose position.
There you go. All right, so doesn't concede the lead all race. Verstappen comes in behind him, and really the race ended up being for, I don't know, maybe fourth or fifth, because Piastri, there's a pretty big gap between Verstappen and Piastri, and then Piastri and Russell. Leclerc fights really hard to catch up to Russell in the last 20 laps or so. Gets there, but can't overtake him in the last 3 or 4 laps. Good defending by Russell, or does Leclerc need to be able to convert that position?
You know, that at the end of the race, though, they were getting pretty close. I was a little concerned going into I think it was lap 58. The gap was increasing between Russell and Leclerc, but once that Mercedes got put into the corners, Leclerc was making up all that time. He got it down to within like 2/10 of a second, I think, on that final lap. Just so we'll just say good defense on Russell there. That was good job by him because that Mercedes is not as quick through those corners.
All right. Okay. There you go. Yeah, Hamilton and then Sainz after that. Um, Alonso keeping himself up there in the points. Ulkenberg snags some points for Haas. Williams kind of struggles after um, their good qualifying. But I think we got to talk about 10th place. Why is Sergio Perez in 10th place? He had a good weekend last weekend until the very end of that race. It feels like he should be getting past a Haas and an Aston Martin if Max Verstappen's Red Bull is good enough to clear second place, or is that just how big of a driver difference this really is?
The driver differences definitely matter, but we could almost say that Perez is almost lucky to have even gotten into 10th because I believe he started below that 13.
Yeah.
To check. Yeah. So him getting back into points, I guess, is maybe he deserves some credit for that. I'm sure they would have liked him to not qualify in 13th. I think that's where the real argument should be is if Max can get the Red Bull to second place, finish second, why is Perez unable to capitalize in qualifying like Max can with the same car? Oscar Piastri can do it with the McLaren. Lando obviously got pole this week. Piastri was able to turn a fifth place, sixth place start into third.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think you should be a little worried if you're Checo going forward on whether or not you think your seat's gonna be safe. I think they're gonna have to stick with him just based on the rumor from the driver of the day at Singapore, but we'll see how it all plays out for Checo. But 10th is a disappointment for sure, and especially on the Red Bull side, it's not going to help them win the constructors. I think they're really penciling in on that driver's championship for Max. I don't know what they're going to have to do to win the constructors, but those two McLarens, the papaya orange, it's dominating. Even if they can complain to the FIA about a too flexible wing, I mean, they had to fix it for Singapore, got pole, and sixth place, converted sixth into third, and converted the pole. I mean, good luck. You can keep complaining to the FIA, Christian. I think I dare you because I know teams have done that to you when you're at the top. I get it. It's gamesmanship. It's politics like that. But yeah, I mean, even if that's not going to work to beat the McLaren, good luck on the constructors.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with the current state, um, doesn't look good for his team. It's gonna have to. Max is gonna have to do all he can. Um, but talk to me about the driver of the day, since you brought him up.
Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo is able to convert, uh, well, a fastest lap into a driver of the day, but also likely final race as a Visa Cash App Red Bull driver. Seems like he was giving his farewell. The post race interviews all seem to indicate there's no official announcement as of today that he's not driving for this year, but the writing's on the wall. They're looking for Liam Lawson to fill that seat. Surely because, well, Yuki's able to get the car up, top 12 ish, and Daniel's not doing that. So if it's certainly not the last we'll ever see of Daniel Ricciardo, he's still on the drivers list for next season as well as a option for teams to sign. I mean, surely he'll be somewhere as a reserve third option if he can't find a seat. But yeah, bit of a sad day if you're a fan of Drive to Survive, especially. But yeah, Daniel Ricciardo's last race would be pretty tough not seeing one of the most happy-go-lucky guys on the grid driving a car.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a blast. Always love seeing him around. So hopefully not his last race. Hopefully he's still in the scene. We get to see some more of him. But yeah, what a note to end his Red Bull and RB career on. Stealing away that fastest lap. Anything else to note? Albon and Magnussen retire, but I don't think there's really anything shocking there.
Max definitely owes like Ricardo a nice new Rolex, or I don't know, whatever Daniel wants. If he was able to secure a drivers' championship for him, that was pretty clutch. I know we got to see a little bit of that radio call after GP told Max that Daniel Ricciardo got fastest lap off Lando, and that if it stands where they finish Lando first, Max second, every race going here on out, Max will win the drivers' championship. So Daniel did his part for the full Red Bull team. I'm sure he'll playfully be asking Max for a little thank you.
Yeah, and Max himself doesn't seem like a fellow that always tends to say thank you a lot. So for him to thank Danny, on that post race call was pretty special. I'm sure. When Daniel heard it back. Just a little bit of drama before we move on. Have you seen Max's recent interviews?
Are we talking about the FIA swearing penalties?
Yes, and then his protest response to that.
Yeah, I think the FIA might be overstepping on how much they're asking these drivers to do. I mean, it's a professional sport. Surely you don't want to have kids hearing swearing, but I mean, these are, as Dan Ricciardo would say, they're high performance athletes. They sweat, they swear. That's just part of the game. I mean, if we had mics on the field, which we do have mics on the field for football games, you catch some stuff on hot mics. It's just going to happen. If you're going to listen on the radio, that's kind of what you should expect. I mean, they're competing at the highest level of the sport. Profanity filters not the first thing on their mind, and I don't think any of the drivers think it's even remotely acceptable to be fined, penalized, asked to filter themselves while they're driving, some, if not the most expensive cars at the highest speeds in the world.
Yeah, I think it's silly. I think most of the drivers agree in what they've said in interviews as well. But I mean, for me, Max's response is just hilarious. I mean, his little protest, it's like, honestly, just have fun with them. If they're going to be that petty, go ahead and be that petty. And he's not refusing to answer the reporter's questions either. He's like, just ask me outside the room and gives the full... literally takes extra time out of his day. I'm sure Max has got a very full schedule. But to put off the questions for just a couple minutes and then answer them later is a statement. Really is a statement, so, in itself. But
I do like that the reporters are in on it as well. Just an all-around bad read for FIA.
Oh, absolutely. And I like that Max is even forward with him. And he's like, hey, listen, just it's not you. We'll get you answers. I'm not trying to be rude to you. So, yeah, kind of exposing the joke that the FIA is putting on there. Any final thoughts on F1 before we switch over?
4 weeks till the next race is too long.
It is. It's going to be tough. So, yeah, we'll have until mid-October?
I think it's October 20th.
Dang, man, that's going to be a long few weeks in there. So, hopefully we'll have something to talk about that pops up in the in-between time. If not, though, we'll have NFL, we'll have the NHL starting, and, of course, Premier League and Bundesliga. So, Let's go ahead and talk about the NFL this week, though. The Jets take care of business on Thursday night. Um, Honestly, Luke, I fell asleep during this game. It was a snooze. I woke up after the end of the second quarter, or I guess I fell asleep at the end of the second quarter, and then the game was over by the time I woke up. Um, was there anything exciting you saw from this one?
Uh, I mean, Drake May got some snaps, but it's pretty clear why they didn't want to start him. I mean, if you saw any of that first half with Jacoby Brissett on his back for whoever knows how many enough times to get him hurt by the end of the game, and actually needing Drake May to play some snaps.
Mm-hmm. Giants in Cleveland. There was one of the shockers of the week. Giants improved to 1-2, and the Browns fall to 1-2. And I watched the end of that game, the last 7 or 8 minutes, and it just seemed like both teams were trying their hardest to throw the game away. And Cleveland just did a better job of it. Is it panic time for the Cleveland Browns after that loss?
They got a lot of offensive line problems. Sean was running for his life. Say what you want about him, but it certainly does not help when you have nobody blocking.
Yeah. Eagles and Saints. This was a low-scoring contest. I thought there were going to be a lot more points in this one, but Eagles come out on top 15-12 on I think it was last-minute drive or close to it. The Eagles scored in the last minute of the game to take the lead. Another good one to watch, like Giants and Browns at the end, a close one. Where'd all the offense go in that one, Luke?
They were there. I think both defenses were able, pretty much, for the most part, to put a lid on getting into the end zone. There's a couple plays, fourth downs rather, that Sirianni from 40 yards, 42 yards out, opted to go for it and turn the ball over twice, and then leaving at least 6 points on the board. Points on the board there. Kicking from the 50, basically, for a field goal later in the game, trying to get the points, miss that field goal. That's 9 points the Eagles don't have right there. I think most of the points we were missing for the Eagles side were just bad decision making on the head coach on when he was going to take points and when he was going to go for it. If you were going to go for it, it's the one where you're trying to kick a 50-plus yard field goal. The other ones, I think you just take points. And then offensive side, I think it's credit to Vic Fangio's defense actually on containing these Saints, as they were the first team now to stop a little bit of Derek Carr's touchdown run, or touchdown streak scoring, I should say. But yeah, I think that one was a matchup between two of the better teams. A little bit of head coaching antics on the Eagles side, but yeah, something I guess to watch is how the Saints come back after there's some tape on stopping them. I mean, Dallas kind of just let them run all over him, and week one was Carolina, but now the Eagles, with a real quality defense, were able to contain the Derek Carr machine with Kubiak as the coordinator. So we'll see what happens there. This might have been one of the previews of a playoff game.
All right. Um, how about Chicago and the Indianapolis Colts? Caleb Williams kind of goes off in this one, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, also has 2 interceptions, though. How did that result in only 16 points? Bears moment?
Yeah, Bears moment. If this game was more of a battle of who didn't want to win, I would say Richardson had the same sort of problems turning the ball over. But the difference is Colts were deliberate in actually handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, and it kind of slows down the game for Anthony Richardson. Is able to get a dub. Garbage time touchdown for Caleb Williams. Not to discredit him, I mean it's going to help his confidence, but one of those is in time where it was way too late to actually matter for them. I'm not saying the game was over, but that was a fourth quarter touchdown score, Caleb Williams to Roma Dunze. Sure that's good for them, but they lost. They also lost Keaton Allen in this game, so they have offensive line problems. They had it on a fourth and one, 4th and 2 on the goal line, and there were 7 Colts defenders in the backfield before DeAndre Swift even got the ball from Caleb Williams on a pitch. So, yikes, that's their problem. It's as much Caleb Williams' fault as it is the offensive line, and neither can be blamed without the other. But it's got to change up front. You invested all of your draft picks and money into skill positions. I think Bill Belichick said on Pat McAfee this week, he's like, there's another team in the North, the Lions with Penei Sewell. They built from the trenches out, so that's the way you should do it. And I think, one of the greatest coaches of all time, I have a point, and the Bears probably shouldn't have built out in. They should be building trenches out, and it's costing them on the offensive line.
All right. Bears at 1-2 now. So are the Colts. Are the Bears the worst of the NFC North?
Yeah, I hesitate because I want to say no because I know who the real ones are. It's probably the purple people eaters, but they're the best team in the NFC. So
yes, they are, and we'll get to them. We'll get to them for sure. Why not now? Honestly, tell me about them.
I'm crowning them. They're the Super Bowl favorite now for the NFC. Good luck. Sam Darnold's the best quarterback in the entire league. He leads the league in touchdowns, so not much more you can say about there. Don't ask about the picks. She's good for one a game minimum. Defense is rolling. Brian Flores got that game going. They get some pressure last week against Houston. Houston had a bit of a problem blocking for C.J. Stroud. They opted to reduce the risk of losing C.J. Stroud long term and put Davis Mills in there in garbage time because that game got away in a hurry. It was 24-0 by halftime. So, yeah, Minnesota's they're the Super Bowl favorite. They're the team to beat, best team in the NFC. I'm crowning them right now. Good luck with that. You got Green Bay next week. Surely they'll have nothing to play for against Minnesota or anything like that.
No, could not imagine. What about the Texans, though? What do the Texans need to do to bounce back from that? And correct whatever went wrong.
They severely missed their running game, I think, with Mixon out. He's kind of a big part of that. Obviously, Mixon's one of the better running backs in the league. Lose him for a game. Coming into Minnesota didn't have to really respect the run with Cam Akers. They also didn't really dedicate themselves to the run, and the offensive line couldn't block either way. So if you're going to get back to the way you were, you got to be able to hand the ball off and make people respect that, and it'll open up anything downfield. Like, I think Nico Collins spent most of the game with 2 targets. Stephon Diggs had the most targets on the team with 7 by the end, and he had 6 of those in the first half. Yeah, they just need to be able to run the ball. I think it's a big part of their offense, and it definitely showed that Minnesota was pretty much took that away from them as an option, and they just had to throw the ball, and it did not work out. Turn the ball over, and Houston's trailing 14-0 before they can even blink.
Yep. Yeah. On to my second disappointment of the weekend. Pittsburgh beats the Chargers 20-10. Was a pretty close game. in the first half, and then the second half, the LA Chargers completely fall apart. Alt, Slater, Bosa, and Herbert all out with injuries, and those are four of your most important starters. I don't have any injury updates on them, so I don't know any long-term implications that may have. But the fourth quarter, the Chargers roll over and die. Disappointing if you're an LA fan. And now we got to worry about injuries all over again. Luke, what did you think of this one?
They were in this one up until, Justin goes out. Taylor Heineke has to play better if he's going to be the backup, and especially if you're going to need him, going forward. Also, Joe Walt is probably looking at long-term injury here with an MCL thing, which is super horrible because I think he was taking care of, his assignment for most of that. I know TJ's kind of a big ass, might have led a pressure or a sack, leading, to some complications there. But yeah, Dobbins needs to get going too. If you can't get the run going, it's pretty evident that the Chargers like to run on that, and the Steelers were able to take that away as well, limiting him to I think it was less than 3 yards a carry. So if you're gonna go forward without Herbert or Slater or Joe Alt, you need to be able to block for Dobbins and ask for a little bit better play out of Taylor Heineke. I know he never expect really to come in, but when you're called upon, you need to play better than that. And he can play better than that. He did it in Washington. He's done it in Atlanta. So just a bad day for injuries. That's about all you can say for the Chargers. I don't really think they lost that game. It's more that Pittsburgh was just able to win it.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, not a bad contest from the boys, and especially, with the injuries, I was okay with the result. Just would have liked seeing a little more fight, but any day you get that rattled with that many key points, just make it out alive and live to fight another day. Tough to take that into the Chiefs next week, though. We had Denver and Tampa after that, and I think this is maybe a bit of a surprise too. Broncos beat the Buccaneers 26-7, and Bucs didn't show really much sign of life the entire game. What'd you think of that one?
Yeah, another instance of offensive line costing another game. Baker was on his butt probably 7 times, I think. I can't remember. I didn't write down that stat line, but he was getting run down by the Broncos. And especially coming after a game where you go into Detroit on the road, kind of make a statement win like that, and also having the same problem with Aiden Hutchinson being able to run you around. I don't really get how Denver's able to pull off and beat you like that, but it's not easy for Baker if you're running for your life, same as it is for Deshaun Watson running for his life or CJ Stroud. So yeah, games like this are gonna happen. Denver's still not good. Don't worry about that. Tampa's just gonna have to figure out how they're gonna ask their linemen to block. There's no major injuries on that side of the ball. On defense, they're gonna want Vita Vea back as soon as possible. He's their big DT nose tackle. They were missing him pretty much all day, and he did his job pretty well against the Detroit Lions as a run stopper against David Montgomery and Gibbs. So yeah, this is overall a game where I think Tampa Bay probably just looked past it and was looking ahead, because there were some quotes out of the interviews of they're thinking Super Bowl bust in week 3. That's some pretty good motivation for a Sean Payton team if you're going to get overlooked.
Yeah. Maybe flying under the radar does him some good too. Then your Green Bay Packers take care of business against the Tennessee Titans 30-14. Who needs Jordan Love, Luke?
Well, The Green Bay Packers. Let's be real. This is great comeback from Malik Willis. It's good because Tennessee's the team that said we don't even care. You take him for a seventh. Don't need him. This is ended up being a great pickup by Gutekunst. He's got 2 wins, 2-0. That's more than you could have asked for. I was expecting a split. There's still a chance to lose, against Minnesota because I'm still on team Malik Willis until Jordan Love is 100% healthy. Don't need to rush him out there. He's like, oh, I'm 75%, 80% ready to go Sunday because against Minnesota. Let me get him. Just protect him, sit him down. Malik will get the job done. He's shown that he can throw the ball. He did it against Tennessee. There's multiple passes where it ended up 20 yards plus downfield. The run game's still cooking. The offensive line's playing out of their mind, and the defense is taking the ball away and shutting down teams via the sack, via the just run stopping. I don't know what to say. Jeff Hafley might be one of the best coordinators I've ever seen. Massive credit though to Matt LaFleur as well. That not many coaches in the league that are head coaches also run the offense, also able to draw up plays in 2 weeks specifically for Malik Willis. The playbook's open. He wasn't lying. He said that going into this week after the Colts, they were asking him, "Hey, are you ready to open the playbook for Malik?" And he said, "It's open." I truly believe him now. That guy might be, if not already, coach of the year, but definitely in the running. And he's shown again that he is one of the better NFL coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue with facts, facts and data that are right in front of me. So, we'll see what they can carry into that Vikings game next week. And so after that, we had a game that made me feel pretty good with the Chargers' loss. And that's any time that the Las Vegas Raiders lose. And they lose to none other than Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers put 36 on the board away from home. Luke, is Andy Dalton him?
He's certainly a dog. He's a dog. But yeah, he's able to prove that Canales has a point on benching Bryce Young. Like the quarterback play wasn't good enough. Andy Dalton was able to piece together a pretty solid game for Carolina. I mean, he's dicing up the Vegas Raiders, so
Right.
But there's no guarantee Bryce Young's even able to do that. So he made the right call. He looks good for it. They're definitely two of the worst teams in the league. Gardner Minshew even got benched in this one. Yikes.
Yeah. Rough game. Rough game all around, but few Panthers fans that are brave enough to show their face around Raleigh definitely deserved their celebrations and wins in that one. So after that, we had Miami and Seattle. And Miami completely struggle without Tua. Put 3 points on the board against the Seahawks. Seahawks are 3-0 now. Miami falls to 1-2. Thoughts on that one, Luke?
Yeah, it's for sure Tua's team. I think we both knew that going into this week, but I mean, Sky Thompson's not hit. He really couldn't make many decisions very quickly. And they just looked sluggish, slow, bad on offense. That doesn't really work when you've got Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. So it'll be a slog for them. The other thing on the other side is Seattle. You're 3-0. You have less convincing wins than the Vikings do. I have less faith in Seattle than I do in the Vikings. You got to beat somebody, and you got to beat them handily. I don't think there's been a Seahawks game until this one, where I was like, well, they finally did it. Beat a team convincingly, even though I've been picking them, riding them. They're very privileged to go to Detroit Monday night, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get swamped a little bit. Because, I mean, 23-20 last week against the Patriots, right? I mean, across the country, but still, yeesh.
Yep. Ugh. Well, let's see if they get brought down back to earth next week. Arizona hosted Detroit after that. Detroit comes out on top 20-13 in a close game. This is about what you expected, Luke?
Yeah, a bit overzealous on the Arizona picks, I think. They were hot. Detroit's the better team, without a doubt. They definitely answered it. They were able to run the ball. Jared Goff still has to be better, though, if they're actually going to contend, and he has yet to really figure that out. He was turning the ball over a little bit early in this one, and didn't end up mattering. Kyler also had a few issues with the defense, so back and forth, not really back and forth. Troy was able to get a 10-point lead early and didn't really look back.
Yeah, only 3 points in the second half of that game, so definitely.
Yeah. Statement by their defense in Detroit, so they're ready to show up. I think that's more so what we're looking at there.
All right. Baltimore and Dallas, we were split on this one. Baltimore ekes out a 3-point win against the Cowboys. Are the Ravens back? Are the Cowboys struggling? What's the story from that game? They both start out 1-2 on the season.
Yeah, I think Baltimore's definitely a run team, and they've got the privilege of playing Dallas this week. So I don't know if that's why they're able to get the ground game going. Is what I'm getting to here. Dallas has been pretty much wide open in the trenches. The Baltimore Ravens haven't been able to get the kind of blocking they need to start the run game like they wanted until this game. Maybe it's enough to get the O-line going, because for the most part, it's a pretty new group together anyway. They've got some pieces that were there last year that are still good. But yeah, this game wasn't really close. It ended up close, but it really wasn't for most of the game, because Baltimore pretty much had their way with running the ball against Dallas. It started to frustrate the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb was throwing a bit of a fit on the sideline. So was was it Micah? Somebody else on the defense started throwing a fit. It's bad look. Dak post game has the kind of interview you want, with some accountability, asking his guys to lock in here. Didn't say those words, but like we got to be better. We can't be doing that on the sideline. They're gonna be more mature. We were in that game by the end, losing only 3 points, but like you can't have standout acting out like that on the sideline, like CD, or especially CD or Micah Parsons, because those are your leaders now. You can't be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your composure. You're still in these games. It's not over. But yeah, bigger win from Baltimore, because 0-3 teams don't make the postseason, so huge win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. 274 rushing yards for the Ravens, 51 for the Cowboys in that one. So, just to support your point there. San Francisco goes to the LA Rams, and the home team wins. The Rams improved to 1-2, and the 49ers fall to 1-2. What's going on with San Francisco?
Injuries catching up to him. I heard some rumblings of like people asking if Bosa wants to try on certain pass rushing plays. Maybe the question should be asked: is he asked to contain on that play for Stafford? But why would you contain Stafford? Should be the question. But people were mad. People being mad were the San Francisco fans. I think they expected to blow that Rams team out, and I think Sean McVay proved that this team has a lot of injuries. The Rams and 49ers had a lot of injuries. But the Rams came out to fight, and they were ready to win that one because Stafford came to the ball, Kieran Williams came to the ball, and Sean McVay was in his bag. And, Juwan Jennings popped off for Shanahan as well. So, like, Purdy had somebody to throw to, but Ayuk, non-existent. He's your stud wide receiver now. You paid him $120 million. The only thing he did was appear on a pitch play at the end of the game and then start pretty much I would say for fight, it was like a kerfuffle at the end of the game, the Rams sideline. But yeah, that's a bad look.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we round out the Sunday games with Sunday Night Football. Chiefs take care of business against the Falcons. I was really hoping the Falcons would eke out a win here, but Chiefs offense does show signs of struggling in this one. But ultimately they take care of business, and struggling for them is still 350 yards. So, any thoughts on that one?
Atlanta was kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Got to be a little bit tighter on the offensive side of the ball. You're getting some drop passes, Tyler Algier. Maybe the play call isn't in his favor, but you're going for it on 4th and 1. You can't get any push. That's a little rough, but it was the Chiefs, so we both kind of figured this was going to happen.
Yep, absolutely. Then we have the Bills are just putting on a clinic against the Jags right now, 27-3, and then Washington is up on the Bengals 14-7. So we'll see if those results hold. I'd expect the Bills result to hold out, but the Commanders and Bengals could get interesting. All right. That should wrap it up for NFL this week. Luke, you see anything from NCAA that was interesting? Maybe an Illini result?
Yeah, Illinois might be the better team one of the better teams in the Big Ten. They get Penn State right away again this week, so we'll know for sure who's legit contending in the Big Ten. But yeah, Altmaier had a pretty good day. He was not obviously perfect, but he had 3 touchdowns, no picks. The defense had a huge interception to keep the game close in the end zone. They're looking good. They'll look good going forward. And Penn State, I expect that game to be close as well. Happy with the result for the Illini.
Yeah, it looks like all the higher seeded teams pretty much came out and won this week. Michigan eke out a 3-point win on USC. Utah, a little bit of, that was the 12 and 13 seed teams, and then 10 and 20 teams. Utah and OSU play each other. Utah wins by 3. Missouri find a 3-point win against Vanderbilt, maybe closer than it should have been. Tennessee wins, and BYU, 22 seed, took it to K-State as a 23 seed. So
unranked at the time, though. I think
were
for
they?
BYU.
Were they?
Yes.
Okay. So these have been updated since. Gotcha. All right. Well, yeah, it looks like we got a couple good games coming up, but we can cover that in a couple days. All right. And then I understand you have some thoughts that you may care to share about the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, so we're looking at the postseason for baseball right now, but if we're being honest, Cardinals have been eliminated for over a month. They were officially eliminated on Friday, I think. Yeah, Friday against Cleveland. So it's been a little bit of a while since I've watched a baseball game. However, it has also been a while since the Cardinals have won in the playoffs. They looking at some good stuff for the team going forward, because now we can't even talk about postseason ball. We're looking at 2025. Mason Wynn, quality starter. Not gonna say cornerstone yet, because you'd like to see a couple other guys that I'll get to later become that. He's definitely the future for shortstop. He's already proven that he's starting there for a reason and staying there. He can stay in the leadoff spot as well. The starting pitchers were also pretty consistent. It's enough for you to win games, so that's another good thing. You might look at maybe like Michaelis, maybe finding another role for him if you don't want to keep him in a starting role. He's throwing for a 5 ERA, but between like Fetty, Gray, Gibson, Palante, you're looking at 4 pretty quality starters. Maybe not a you know top 2 or 3 rotation, but you would definitely expect them to be able to keep your team close, and they did it this year. The bullpen also not bad. Helsley will be back. If they lose Kittredge to free agency, I don't think they'll care because the rest of the bullpen was pretty good at their job. I mean, cost Gallegos a job this year. Couldn't figure out his slider, but after that, bullpen was pretty tight. The bad is where we're going to be asking how are we going to get better. There's a lot of bad for the Cardinals, mostly consistency on hitting. Lowest OPS with runners in scoring position in the MLB. Goldschmidt was kind of the epitome of that. I think he hit 104 or 240, sorry. 240 with a score or runner in scoring position. That's OPS 240. On base plus slugging. He continued with Goldschmidt, had a lot of age showing in the first half. Kind of found his game at the end of the year. It's a contract year. I'm thinking move on from Goldschmidt, maybe offer him a qualifying offer, but I think you can get better at first base. With like Burleson, move him there out of the outfield. Baker can play there. Free agent. Surely there's somebody where you can get some more consistent offensive play at a younger age than what Goldschmidt can offer. Walker and Gorman, they were kind of the touted prospects coming into this year where you were expecting them to perform, carry this offense that was so inconsistent, and neither were really able to live up to that hype. Maybe argument for Walker is he wasn't really given the chance after a month. They sent him down for 4 months to AAA to figure it out and called him back up in September for call-ups. He's played okay. Nothing to write home about, nothing you would expect him to do. Gorman was pretty much non-existent for most of the year. He bat for under 200s, well below the Mendoza line. They sent him to AAA in September because they were tired of it, I guess, trying to figure out, bring up Thomas Sagise. So, yeah, those two didn't really pan out. I don't know what you want to do with them going forward. There's obviously a plethora of things you can do. Give them another shot, build around them, give them some help, because those are the 2 guys you were expecting to kind of carry and tout the offense, even though you have Arenado and Goldschmidt, but you'd want the 2 young guys that are really good at hitting, supposedly, kind of get right and lead the team, even though, they're still yet to hit their peak, hopefully. And, well, they couldn't really get it done. I think a lot of the offense can be chalked up to that being a problem. Wynn ends up being the best hitter on the team for average. Contreras was able to hit well for some slugging. Arenado kind of turned it around after a cold April, May, but he was back to what he does, which is Gold Glove defense and a solid bat. But I'd say in total, that entire Cardinals team doesn't really have much identity on offense. I don't really know if they were hitting for homers. They didn't really hit for contact on base. They kind of look like they're just, winging it. And I'd say most Cardinal teams of the past, they have an identity, like going back to like Matt Holliday days with, Yachty and some of that playoff juju with like Carlos Beltran. They were slapping the ball in play, moving base runners around, not necessarily hitting homers. You bring a couple years back, you bring Pujols and Scott Rowland in that lineup in like 06. They were hitting for some serious pop. Ryan Ludwig was a popper as well. So, teams of old, you can tell what they're trying to do. This team didn't really have an identity. I don't really think that's a coaching problem. That's more of a, player problem, personnel, because you can coach as much as you want, but if they can't put the ball in play or hit, anything at all anyway. Not much good the coaching can do. Uh, they're a pretty old team for what they should be as well. Don't need any more vets. Like Matt Carpenter played pretty well. If you want to keep him on in that role or in another role in some capacity, I'm okay with that. They're old. They don't need to get older. Don't really need to bring Goldschmidt back. I said that earlier, but that's another reason you won't really want him back because you didn't have an identity with him. You won't have an identity with him if you bring him back. I think the outfield needs some help. They need some convincing play from back there. Lars Dubar missed a lot of time. He's a pretty solid contact hitter. Uh, but you're watching people like O'Neill in Boston kind of pop off, go for almost over 30 homers. Rosarena obviously struggled a little bit in Tampa, turned it around a little bit in Seattle this year. Garcia, Dolly, and the Rangers. I mean, they didn't really give either of those two guys much chance, but you're giving these guys chances right now on the MLB stage when you're looking at Ciani, who can't hit. He's below league average as a hitter for slugging in on base. New bar, obviously. Burleson had a hot start to the year, ended up not finishing strongly after the break. You'd expect a little bit better out of that, but first full season of play at the big league levels, and maybe if you ask him to play first base instead of worrying about defensive assignments in the outfield, he might end up in a little bit better position as a bat. So I'd like to see them find a bat oriented outfielder, not in a Marcelo Zuna vein, but like a Anthony Santander. I mean, Soto's a free agent, but I don't expect that to happen. Just somebody like strictly coming in with an identity as a hitter to hit so that you can fix the offense that was so inconsistent. I think the only other thing I wanted to touch on for the most part was the Bill DeWitt saying that fans not showing up doesn't really send a message because it just makes it hard for them to spend money. I think as an owner's son, that's kind of BS. I don't think you should be saying that. I think he has a point though on the side of it's not really sending a message because if you're the so-called best fans of baseball, you show up even if they're bad. The only reason I think I'm okay with people not showing up is because Bill DeWitt the third said it's not sending a message. It's not sending the message that you think it's sending. And if that's why the best fans of baseball aren't showing up, then I stand with him on that. That's kind of a stooge thing to say if, as an owner or future owner of the Cardinals. Like, come on, dude. It's a bad look. You run the team. You're saying it's the fans' fault that you can't spend more money, even though you guys set the payroll. Yikes! I'm not a fan of that. It doesn't give me a lot of hope. But luckily, if like Goldschmidt doesn't end up coming back, or if he comes back at a qualifying offer, it'd only be 19 million to 25 million a year. So you're looking at not bringing him back. Lance Lynn probably won't be back, and maybe Gibson. Who knows? But you'll be freeing up close to 50 mil in salary just by losing Goldschmidt, Lynn, and anybody else that they're not even planning on bringing back. So if you can't find a way to spend 50 million on an outfielder, maybe a second baseman, maybe a first baseman to play every day, give you some offense in a consistent manner, I think. Well, we're looking at a long rebuild, 1 year rebuild, which is a long time for St. Louis. Just kind of funny, but yeah, I think next season you're looking at improve the outfield somehow. Santander, somebody's got to come in to hit. Um, Maybe revamp the farm system with dangling like Gorman, Walker. See what we want to get out of him. I don't think you could dangle Arenado because I don't think he would waive his no trade, but also like you wouldn't get the kind of farm pieces that you'd want to be able to rebuild. But I think the most realistic outcome here is Mo's kind of forced to sit on his hands because Bill DeWitt's serious about not spending money, and they'll play about 500 baseball because that's what they did this year, and they'll have the exact same team minus Goldschmidt. And then Mo will just kind of sail off into the sunset. We'll have a new GM, and maybe the owner will spend money with the new GM. I'm not really sure, but they need some answers on offense to be able to compete. The pitchers performed, the bullpen performed. starters, I'd rather, not just pitchers, but starters performed, the bullpen performed, players performed, but there was lacking a soul on offense. Contreras can hit, Wynn can hit, Burleson hit for a little bit, but we just lost him. There's just a lot of question marks there on that other side of the ball this year. Last year we were asking about pitching. Now we're asking about where did the batting go. I think that's what a lot of other Cardinal fans are wondering, and I'm included in that. And we'll just see what Bill DeWitt how much he's willing to spend.
Yeah, I mean, keep us updated. I'll be interested to see what the off season holds, what their acquisitions are, who they send off and don't re-sign. But I know, growing up, I'm not the biggest Cardinal fan, but it's weird to hear for a couple of years now about them not doing well after them. I think we were pretty spoiled growing up to have a lot of great Cardinal teams, so yeah, it is weird to hear about. I know they'll never use the word rebuild in St. Louis for any sports team, but
That's not true. They did it for the Rams. Kroenke was pretty big fan of rebuild in LA.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Absolutely. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
Don't think so.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a couple days for the next weekend outlook, minus F1 for a little bit, and I know we're both a little disappointed in that, but yeah, in the middle of the week, next week, we'll do a little NHL preview and roll from there. So, Luke, thank you as always for joining me. For Ranters and Banters, I'm Briley.
I'm Luke.
Have a great week, folks.